Hey y'all, what's up? It's AWTM, and I am here to do a recap for the season finale of Sistas. This was season 7, episode 22, entitled Had It Coming. And we all know who had it coming. So let's go ahead and get into this. Make sure that you like, share, subscribe, follow if you can. And I really appreciate it. And get in the comments. Let me know what you think about this episode, this whole season of Sisters. This was the final episode for this season. Now, I am so looking forward to All the Queen's Men, which should be coming on soon. They haven't actually set a date yet, but I will start to get into that as well. I still want to cover a little bit on Sisters, kind of breaking down this season and what happened with different characters. So I'm going to do a couple of quick videos on that, so look forward to that. But in this episode's Had It Coming description, it reads, Andi's career completely changes at the same time that her life is thrown into turmoil. Rich and Sabrina consider the future, and the ladies come together to help Andi. So the episode kicks off, and we have Sabrina, Danni, and Rich buses in the room at the fertility clinic to stop them. So Rich makes his demands and says he does not want her to go through. He's the only one that wants to give her kids. And he also tries to start pulling down his pants, and they're like, no, don't do that. So the nurse or doctor was kind of upset because she was like, it takes weeks to vet somebody to do this. And she tells Sabrina, after she handles her business, they'll just keep Danni's sperm sample just in case she wants to still use it. Now, Danni kind of jumps back at Rich, like, what are you doing? And I'm like, hold up, that's her man. Like, you need to simmer down. So this just proves that Danni really likes Sabrina, and I think he was looking forward to being a donor for her because he wanted some kind of relationship with her, and this would have gotten him in the door. Danni ends up leaving, and Rich and Sabrina talk, and she tells him she's going to get dressed and apologize to Danni, and Rich is like, you don't owe him an apology. And she was like, yes, I do. He was there for me, and that deserves, to be apologized for because you busting in here acting crazy. So we'll see what happens with that and see if Danni continues to be a character on the show in the upcoming season. Now, over at the law office, Hayden is there, and Miss Marie comes in to find out about her case. When she comes in, she has an attitude like, you better have something for me. What's going on? Hayden proceeds to tell her that he does not have anything on her husband, and they may have to go a different route. And Miss Marie is upset. Now, Andi walks in, and she has a file with her. She sits down. She tells Miss Marie that she has all the proof she needs about her husband, that he actually was not messing with the assistant. He was using the assistant to funnel money for his transactions on OnlyFans with men. So Miss Marie is ecstatic. She's so happy with Andi. She tells Hayden to go ahead and step out so she can talk to Andi. And she talks to her, and she's like, I know there's something wrong with you. What's going on with you, Andi? She's like, you're like me. You're successful. You're a businesswoman. And the only thing that could be wrong is a man. So Andi proceeds to tell her that's unprofessional. She can't talk to her about it. But then she does spill the beans about Gary making her or forcing her to marry him because he has dirt on her. Miss Marie is like, is it really that bad? Andi is like, yes. And Miss Marie offers her help. And Andi is like shocked, but Miss Marie says, don't worry about it. She also went and talked to the partners about Andi as well. She said she was going to them, and Andi was very happy about that. Now, on her way to talk to the partners, she stops by Hayden's office and asks him, does he have time for a little tryst? And Hayden is like, what was that in there? All that women empowerment, kumbaya girl stuff. Like, why did you talk to me like that? And she quickly put Hayden in his small-ass place where he belongs and told him that he's lucky that she even gave him the time or attention. He also tried to threaten her that he would put it in the blogs that she was messing with her lawyer. And she threatened him and told him, go right ahead. I will tell them, and I'll also tell them what you like to do behind closed doors. So what kind of freaky deaky stuff is Hayden into? I don't know, but She tells Hayden good riddance and she ends up leaving. Now at Zach and Fatima's house, Zach is kind of upset with Fatima because he said he has been calling her all day. She wasn't answering. And when she got home, she rushed past him to go upstairs. And she was like, she just had to take a shower and get herself together. So he's asking her, like, what's going on? What's up? So she tells him that she went to see Gary and that Gary's security put their hands on her. So Zach is immediately trying to rush out the door to go get somebody to get Gary. He said, this is too much. He's disrespecting me. He disrespected me at my baby shower. He's disrespecting you. He was like, I've had enough of Gary. And so she tells him, no, we're going to handle it, but we're going to handle it my way. Think about Michael and your twins. So he was able to calm down and stop what he was doing. Now, leaving the law office, Miss Marie runs into Pam, and she talks to Pam about Roots to Riches and tells her it's some good stuff. And Pam is like, I'm glad you like it. She also asked Pam that she needed investors. So I see Pam really blowing up, and she's taking on more of a role in this show. It looks like she's turning into a main character. So on the next season, we probably will see a lot more of Pam and her success with her business. I can't wait to see how that plays out. I like Pam's character. She's funny. So I do want to see more of her. Now, Andi gets called into the office with one of the partners, and he's sitting down and talking to her and telling her that the firm has been through a lot, and it's because of her. So she thinks she's in trouble. But he actually tells her that Miss Marie says that she's going to bring all her business to the firm, and he says the firm name, and he includes Andi's name in the name of the firm. So she did make partners. She was able to get that position, and she beat Hayden out. So Andi is ecstatic. So when she leaves or he leaves the office, she's dancing around happy, and then in walks Hayden. And he tells her, like, you know, you were going to lose this case without me. And she's like, what are you talking about? And he was like, yeah, I'm going to tell the partners that I saved you, and if it wasn't for me, we wouldn't have won this case. And she was like, oh, okay, Hayden, go right ahead, because I am one of the partners, and we don't tolerate that here at whatever the law firm name is. I can't remember the other partners' names, but Hayden was shook. He was like, whoa. And she was like, oh, and by the way, you're going to be reporting to me. So Hayden's having a bad day, it looks like, so far. Miss Marie done dissed him. Andi is his boss now, and that was the last thing he wanted to happen. So Hayden, he's, batting at zero right now. Back at Sabrina's, Rich is there, and they start to talk about the whole situation. She tells Rich, like, if you're really not ready, I don't want you doing this just because you're trying to keep me or hold on to me. And Rich tells her that he is ready, and he couldn't see himself having kids with anyone else, or her actually having kids with anyone else but him. So it looks like they're going to make up, and they did make up and kiss. And it looks like Rich is going to be not only her man, maybe her husband, and maybe her baby daddy. Now, Hayden arrives home to Tamara, and Tamara is just sitting on the couch, and he walks in, and he was like, dang, you didn't cook any dinner, you didn't clean up, you didn't do this. And she was like, I am not a wife, And he was like, oh, you didn't kiss me? And she was like, oh, you told me not to kiss you earlier. So he tells her, whatever's in your phone, you're hiding. I'm not going to be doing anything like that because you're still hiding stuff. So he grabs Tamara's phone and wrestles for it with her and actually starts looking through the phone. And that's where the scene cuts off. Now, Tony arrives at Danni's house with flowers. I guess he's trying to make up for what happened, with Tiffany coming over and him seeming like he was on Tiffany's side. He lets her know that Tiffany is out of there. She's going back to Italy. And the kids, they want to go with their mother. So he tells her that, it's going to be them. He only wants to be with her, and he apologizes for making her feel like she was in any competition with anyone else. And she was like, there is no competition. So she wasn't even worried about that. But he tells her, give him a couple of days. I guess he's going with the kids to Italy to get them settled, and he'll be right back. So I'm glad they made up. And I'm also glad that Tiffany is out of the way for now because she was doing absolutely too much. Now, I don't know what's going to happen when he goes to Italy. We'll see on the next season. I don't know if she's going to try to pull a fast one or what, but we will see. Now, we cut back to Hayden, and he's going through her phone. He finds the video of her having sex with Gary, and he just sits there and watches it, and he's just shocked. Now, at this time, Tamara has given up fighting for her phone back. She's just like, it came out. She's apologizing profusely to him and telling him she's sorry. He's asking her how many times did it happen. And he was like, well, I'm going to ask him. So she admits that it happened more times. He tells her to get out immediately. And she was like, oh, okay, because you ain't shit. Just like Gary said, you ain't shit. And so this has been a bad episode for Hayden. Not including all the stuff that he's done to everybody else. And not that Gary just had it coming. Hayden also had it coming. So he's getting his just due on this episode. And I am so glad because he's been a pain in everybody's ass. Even in his own. And maybe that's what Miss Marie was talking about. I don't know. But anyway, we cut to Andi in the car. And she's calling Jordan and letting him know that she's sorry, that what she's doing has nothing to do with him, and that she really loves him. And before she gets love all the way out, she hangs up the phone. Now, the girls are at Sabrina's apartment, and they're talking about Andi. And they're like, something is going on. Like, we have to figure this out. So Karen says that the wedding is actually going to be today. So they ask her where, and Karen's like, I couldn't ask her where because she wouldn't tell me. So they end up calling Fatima. Fatima, didn't want to, but she does tell them where the wedding was going to take place at. So they all get ready to go. Now, when she hangs up the phone with them, she tells Zach to get ready so they can go as well. Then we cut over to the wedding location. Now, it looks like a church. It may be a church or it may be some kind of hall. But Andi walks in on Gary and he said, don't you know it's bad luck to see the bride before the wedding? And she was like, yeah, whatever. And he was like, I don't even care about that. She had on some kind of goddess wedding dress, which was really beautiful. And he was like, you could have had on something more form-fitting, but I'll take it. So she tries to talk to Gary and kind of talk him out of the wedding. Like, we can do something else. We can make other arrangements. And he's like, no, and you need to sign those papers. And she was like, oh, well, we have to sign those after we get married. And that's how she got out of that situation. Now, Hayden is in his car and he is looking pissed. He makes a call to Gary and asks him, where he's at. Gary tells him that he's getting married. And Hayden is like, oh, is that right? And he was like, you'll never guess to who. It's not Penelope. And he's like, oh, who is it, Andi? And Gary was like, yes. And Hayden was like, oh, I thought you wanted to destroy her. And Gary says, I did, and now I'm going to marry her. So Hayden is really upset because he really thought that Gary had it in for Andi. But Gary was just obsessed with Andi and wanted her by all means. Now, he tells Hayden to pull up to the wedding and bring Tamara. And Hayden is like, nah, I'm not messing with Tamara like that. But he was like, I am going to pull up. So Hayden is in the car after this crying and snotting and, very upset. So he wants to do away with Gary. He wants to do something bad to him. And he's on his way to that wedding. Now, at the wedding, the chairs are all set up like there's going to be a lot of guests. And Gary's partner is there. So he's kind of sitting there with Andi, almost keeping an eye on her, making sure that she does not leave. The sisters walk in and we're here, what's going on? Where's our dresses? And the assistant is immediately telling them, not the assistant, but his partner, is immediately telling them they have to leave. So Andi is like, let me talk to them. I will handle it. Because he was going to get Gary and Andi talked him out of it. So they try to talk to Andi and tell her, what are you doing? We know you don't want to do this. And they're sitting there and she's like, yes, I do. You just don't know. I love him. So she's sticking to it, and she's sticking to this story just to protect them so they don't do anything to get in trouble or try to do anything to Gary and end up getting hurt. Now, while they're having this conversation, Jordan walks in, and she's like, Jordan, how did you find me? And he said, I followed Gary's henchman. So he's talking to her. He heard her voice message, and he's like, did you mean what you said? And she's like, yes. And he tries to kiss her, and she quickly, stops and looks around like, you have to leave. You can't do this. And Jordan says, let's run away together. Forget all of this. Whatever he has, let's just run away together. And she was like, no, you have a career here. You need to go ahead and win office, and I don't want to do that. Jordan leaves out angrily, saying that he's going to handle it and he will handle Gary. Now, at this moment, Andi starts having a flashback. She's flashing back to all of her times after Jordan leaves. She's flashing back to her times with Gary, her times, with Jordan, and just how her life has been, the penthouse, and then him threatening to, do something to Jordan if he does not marry her, and then her relationship with Jordan. So she kind of comes back to it, and she's standing there with Gary's partner, and they're waiting on Gary. So they're like, where is Gary? And he was like, I'm going to go get him. She said, no, I will go get Gary. You just stay here. So Andi leaves to go get Gary. And she's going off like, you have me waiting and you making me marry you. Like, what are you doing? She walks into the room where Gary was, and he's laying there, and he has been unalived by a knife. Andi kind of smirks and stands there for a second, and then she does this scream, this fake scream, a couple of them, and that's where the episode ends. So someone did take out Gary. With all of the people that were there, the sisters were there, Hayden was on his way, Zach and Fatima were on their way, Tamara was so upset, Miss Marie said she would handle it. So it's any number of people that could have taken out Gary. So we don't know quite yet who did it. Now, I did do an episode on who could have taken out Gary and why they would have possibly taken him out. That's available on all my platforms. But this is the end of Sistas Season 7. I hope you enjoyed this whole season. Let me know how you feel about it in the comments and what you're looking forward to and anything that you might want me to do commentary on. This has been AWTM. Please remember to like, share, follow, subscribe, and I will see y'all later. Bye.